So, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another module of Agency Accelerator. In today's module, we're going to be talking about your niche. Now, your niche and your service are always in an interplay. A niche could be mediocre or it could be overplayed, but if you pair it with a specific offer, it is a gold mine. And I don't want to confuse you guys too much here because we're going to be talking about this a lot in the next module. But as I said, sometimes a service could be very standard or very mediocre, but you pair it with the right niche or you package it together in the right offer. Or as I said, you could have a very overplayed niche, but the way that you frame your offer could mean that all of a sudden this thing becomes a gold mine. Or you could have a bog standard niche and a bog standard offer, but because you have such a competitive advantage in the niche, as an example, let's say you're a top real estate agent for 20 years, you know the entire market, and you just have a simple offer, nothing special, you're still going to absolutely crush it. So I understand that's not the situation for most of you guys. I say all of that not to confuse you, but for you to understand that sometimes it just takes one little piece of the equation for you to tweak, and then all of a sudden, all of the cogs start working and the machine starts turning. So all you need to know for now is that your niche plus your service plus your pricing model equals your offer. There's actually one other secret factor, but we'll talk about that in the next module. Real quick, I want to touch on why do you need a niche? Because I know some of you guys are going, well, wait, if I can serve more clients, then I can make more money. Well, I get that line of thinking, but you need to understand that in the first, I'd say really 2 to 5 years of being in business, focus is your superpower. It is the number one asset that you have. The next thing you need to understand is that specialists have authority. I want to give you a very random example, but one that I think will paint the picture well. If you've ever been to UK, obviously I grew up in the UK, you have those pubs, and those pubs make Italian food, Mexican food, Indian food, British food. Like their menus are like 60 pages long. They literally make everything. And you compare the pricing and how much a place like that can charge in comparison to a Japanese omakase place. Now, funnily enough, I have been to these Japanese omakase places. I've spent 4,000 or 5,000 pounds on a dinner, and I literally enjoy pub food more than I enjoy the omakase food. For me, the pub food tastes better, it's quicker, in, out, and most of the time I'm just there having fun with my friend. So all of that to say that I actually genuinely enjoy the pub food more than I enjoy the specialty Japanese place. Maybe that's just because growing up, I've never appreciated fine food. I come from Russia, I spent my early years there, so for me, food is just food. I'm not very passionate about it or very emotional about it. But it's just so funny that honestly, I think most people, they would enjoy the pub food more than they enjoy this omakase. Or if any of you guys have ever been to those, multiple Michelin star restaurants, I always leave those Michelin star restaurants hungrier than I came because it's like a 7-course meal and the portions are like this big. And by the time you're done, I just want to leave and get a fucking McDonald's or something. But yet, as I said, these places can charge thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars for a set menu, whereas the pub can only charge, 10, 15 pounds per dish. Once again, the reason that isn't necessarily because of how good something tastes. I get it, the quality and the freshness of the omakase, maybe that was an extreme example, but these high-end restaurants, the freshness of it, does make a difference, especially to the price. But at the end of the day, the perception is that these specialty places can charge more than a place that kind of tries to cater to everyone. It's funny, the phrase omakase literally means I leave it up to you. And it's most commonly used when dining at Japanese restaurants, where you as a customer literally leaves it up to the chef to select and serve different seasonal specialties. So it's funny, you don't even technically get to choose your own meal. And simplicity and elegance is how you grow to $100,000 to $300,000 a year with this business. And this is really the goal of this program, to get you from 100 to 300K a year. We've got some advanced programs that we're going to be giving you entirely for free as a bonus. We've got some other programs inside of here that are going to help you move towards 7 figures. And as I've said to you before, I have no intention of selling some $5,000, $10,000, $15,000, $20,000 agency program. So I've just put everything I can humanly put inside of here. So some of the other programs will help you get there, but for Agency Accelerator specifically, we're trying to get you anywhere from sort of 10 to 25K a month. And simplicity and elegance is also how you do it with the least headache, making it the easiest to deliver, and also feeling the best about yourself. There's another thing, making money and feeling good about yourself in the process. Now, talking about niching down, the funny thing is that there are multi-billion-dollar companies that take an evergreen product or service and then they assign a niche to it, even though pretty much nothing changes about the product or service. And then all of a sudden it blows up and does extremely well. People always have this bias that if something is tailored for them, then it's better. And razors are actually a perfect example of this. I actually still use women's razors because they cut less, they're the same quality, and funnily enough, they are much cheaper because they know that they can charge men more for razors. So there you go, there's a fun little fact about me. That's a perfect example of niching down and making more money, even though the product really isn't that different. Now, I believe I've mentioned this to you before. If not, then I definitely will be mentioning this later in the program. But in life, you can have anything you want, you just can't have everything. It's important for you to remember this in life, and that's very important for you to remember when you are niching down. Now, we are offering a service here, but nonetheless, you want to productize it as much as humanly possible. And the only way that you can productize a service is by having minimal variables that change from client to client. The more streamlined the service delivery, the closer it becomes to a product. And the closer it becomes to a product, the more enjoyable it becomes to run an agency and the better results your clients get. Because you have a proven system that you can pretty much copy and paste from client to client. Of course, there will be a touch of personalization working with different clients, but you want to productize it as much as humanly possible. And I promise you right now that you only need one service and one niche to get to $10,000 to $25,000 a month. Now listen, if you're trying to get to $1 million a month, that's a very different story. But honestly, even if you're trying to get to $100,000 a month with this business, the same principle still applies. You never want to be in a golden handcuff situation. And I'll explain what I mean by this. A golden handcuff situation with this business model is where you find it very easy to sign clients, but the complexity kills your service delivery, so they end up leaving and your churn is too high. 10,000 hours dedicated to one industry will create far more respect than 1,000 hours dedicated to 10 different industries or 10 different niches. And using that same sort of analogy, you're going to get much farther in life if you take 10 steps in one direction rather than taking one step in 10 different directions. So now that you understand why it's important to have a niche, now let's talk about mistakes when picking a niche. First things first is getting too worked up in your head, stressing over saturation. You need to understand that as long as there is a part of the market that has a commonality, something that binds them together, there is a niche. You need to understand that as long as there is a group of people that have a commonality, then there's a market. As long as there's a market, a group of people, then there are services that those people will need. Now listen, your market message might get oversaturated. Maybe your offer even gets oversaturated. Maybe specific lead generation methods or outreach methods get oversaturated. These are all moving parts that work like a pendulum. They swing back and forth, and this happens in every single market, by the way. Even if you look at content, YouTube, you could say that, oh, YouTube is getting oversaturated. It's not getting oversaturated. Maybe just a certain style of content is getting oversaturated. A certain theme is getting oversaturated. A certain part of YouTube is getting oversaturated. Maybe even a certain length of video is getting oversaturated. You know, maybe there's a few years where the market wants quick, snappy 10, 12-minute videos. Maybe there's other years in the market where the market just wants 2-hour-long videos. So listen, no one should sit there and go, oh, YouTube is oversaturated. It's not oversaturated. In the same way, it's not oversaturated to become a boxer. It's just as time goes on, there's certain styles that work the best. Listen, in the same way, becoming a professional football player is not oversaturated. There's just certain leagues where certain styles work better. There's certain markets where they're looking for different kind of players. So everything in life is this ever-evolving ecosystem. So at the end of the day, I heard 5 years ago people saying, oh, agencies are oversaturated. I've heard this shit again and again and again. I heard back in 2018 people saying, oh, you know, chatbots will be the end of agencies. Well, yeah, I guess that one never really happened, did it? So the market will always be present. You may just need to rejig the way that you approach and sell to your niche year by year or quarter by quarter. Saturation is only an issue if you copy everyone else's market message, their offer, their pricing, maybe their guarantees, maybe their content style, maybe their outreach methods. So don't stress out about saturation. And in a similar note, don't fret over competition. The market is big. You know, it's funny. People put in such a scary low level of effort in that to beat them doesn't involve much talent. You need to understand that even just going through and dedicating yourself to this program is enough to set yourself apart. It does not take that many clients to get to $10,000 a month. Let's not sit here and pretend like we're geniuses and we're trying to do something massive and create the next Spotify or the next Netflix with millions of monthly users. No, we're just trying to sign a few clients and deliver a good service. Now, the next thing you need to be wary of when it comes to niche and when it just comes to anything online, especially in general, is this whole monkey see, monkey do concept. You need to understand just because something works for someone else does not mean that it's going to work for you. Don't be scrolling inside the community. Don't be on Twitter. Don't be on this platform. Don't be on YouTube. Then you see someone succeeding with one niche or one model or one offer or framing and decide that that's your new niche. Stay focused, carve your own lane, never try to copy another person's model word for word. The whole thing, it's not going to work. And the reason it's not going to work is because you haven't followed the principles of picking the right niche. So, what are those principles? Well, for me, it comes down to two things. What do you have a competitive advantage in, and what are you fascinated about? You want to pick your niche from those two questions. Then it comes down to the same principle as investing. Time in the market is better than timing the market. And what I mean by that is running an agency is very similar to being an investor. You are always going to do better in your 5th year than your 1st year. In the same way, you have these beginner investors that think they're going to constantly come in and out of the market, chop and change, and that's how they're going to get ahead. And then if they backdate all of their trades historically, they genuinely would have just been better investing in the market, staying in it for 5 years, and that's it. And that's pretty much the same with your niche. The longer you are in the niche, the better the niche will serve you. In the same way, the longer you are invested in the markets, the more the compound interest does its thing and the more profitable it becomes over time. So these are the questions to know if the niche is right for you. And by the way, I would always pick a niche that you have a competitive advantage in rather than a niche that you are passionate about or have an interest in, because passion and interest and intrigue can fade, but mastery and skill set never does. So when you are good at something, you inherently enjoy it more. I can tell you right now, the more you know about a niche, the more you will enjoy it long term. Maybe not in the short term, but in the long term, because the more you know about a niche, the more mastery, the more you can understand the market and see it clearly. As I said, the better it is going to serve you long term. So if you're scratching your brain and there's nothing you have a competitive advantage in, and a competitive advantage to me is maybe your dad or your mom was in an industry, maybe you grew up around an industry or a niche. Maybe you've been involved in an industry or a niche for so long that you genuinely have specialized knowledge in it. And by the way, the same principle can apply to your offer as well. You know, maybe you've been editing since you were 11 or 12, so you just understand editing. So that makes sense as a service delivery. Maybe you've been in web development niche from a young age. Maybe you've been coding, programming. And then if you've thought about it, you've exhausted all your options and you can't think of something that you have a competitive advantage in, then ask yourself, what am I interested in? What am I intrigued in? Because that's going to be very important when you are doing your niche research, when you're trying to understand the niche, because, well, of course, if you're interested in it, it's just going to make it more enjoyable. Then if you've done that, you have to look at if the niche is a viable niche in its entirety. So here are some questions you should ask yourself about the niche before you go into it. Is the niche expanding or at least stable? It should not be on the decline. For example, physical magazines or newspapers, probably not a good niche to get into. Next question to ask yourself, does the niche actually need what you're selling? Because certain niches just don't need that kind of service or that kind of offer. Next, you have to ask yourself, is the niche making at least $10,000 a month? Because anything less than that, and even $500 service or even a $500 service a month will sting. The next question is, are there more than 10,000 eligible businesses or companies in this niche? As I said, you're not trying to sign 100 clients here, or at least definitely not for the time being, but you still want a big enough pool of potential clients, because the other thing you need to remember is, you know, there'll be clients in different markets, different languages, etc., etc. Now, just remember that you are not married to a niche. You're not getting the niche tattooed on your forehead. Even in my agency journey, I changed niches a couple times. So if after 6 months of serious work, you still cannot make it work, then maybe it's time to swap. But this should only happen after you seriously commit to this thing for half a year and you play around with the variables. Because as I said, your niche is just one small component of your larger offer that we're going to be talking about in the next module. Now, once you've decided on a niche, you need to understand your niche. You need to understand how they talk, how they behave, their habits, what motivates them. So I want you to grab a pen and paper and write down the answers to these questions about your target market. How old is your client on average? Is it a young industry or an old industry? Where does your client hang out outside of work? So just in their free time. What way does your client dress? Are they more flashy or are they more reserved? This is important for you to know. What are your client's favorite car brands? How does your client feel about their work? And what is your client's main annoyance with their work? What is the normal relationship status of your ideal client? If your client made more money, what would they spend it on? And what is your client's main core driver? Is it money, status, fame, freedom? It's going to be different things for different clients and also pertaining to different services. What core driver will your service tap into the most out of all of those? What is one person in the market or industry that your ideal client wants to be like the most? And who is your client's customer or client? So I want you to go ahead and jot down your answers. And then for the next 48 hours, I want you to become obsessed with this niche as if you were in it. And here's what I mean by this. For example, let's say you work with software companies. That is your niche. For the next 48 hours, I need you to subscribe to all of the YouTube channels talking to software owners. I want you to find all of the gurus or thought leaders who show software company owners how to grow their businesses. I want you to pretend like you're a software owner and engulf yourself in that world. And this will make it so easy for you to sell them because you know exactly what they're thinking, what they're looking at. I mean, listen, even if you still haven't deleted TikTok, at least make your TikTok show you stuff related to software owners. Your Instagram, follow meme pages that make memes about being a software business owner. Understand the world, speak the language, buy the books that someone in your niche would buy in order to grow their business. Join the Facebook groups that they're in. Join the Reddit forums that they're in. Become a member of that community to understand it better and ultimately sell to it better. Listen, in the future, you can even buy programs and courses or go to events that show people in your niche how to grow their business. Because listen, maybe that coaching program for example, software company owners, maybe that coaching program is $2K, $5K, but you're selling a service that's $1,500 a month, $5,000 a month, $3,500 a month, whatever it could be. And you're taking that knowledge you learned from that coaching program in a service-based business where you can charge high ticket prices and it's monthly recurring. But this actually transitions perfectly into the last thing that I want to talk about, which is sophisticated clients versus unsophisticated clients. So software company owners are actually an example of sophisticated clients and the clients you want to stay away from when you're first starting. E-com businesses who could actually afford the services that you're selling are another example of sophisticated clients who very likely could actually deliver or figure out how to do themselves the thing that you're selling. So I'll give you an example. Home improvement know nothing about marketing. If you're a level 2 understanding about marketing and your client is a level 1, you still know more than them. But if they're at a level, let's say 5 out of 10 understanding about marketing or your service, then they're going to be able to sniff out your inexperience. Certain industries will be too difficult to build authority without experience. So please avoid those industries if you're at the beginner stage. You can always come back to them later on in your journey. That's what I did. Basically, all of my first clients were just sporadic, random clients. And then I worked exclusively with gyms. And then about 18 months to 2 years into my journey exclusively with infoprog businesses. I did that for a year and a half. And then I started working with some e-commerce businesses as well. So the main sophisticated niches are e-commerce. They already know about online marketing most of the time. SaaS/software companies, once again, they already know about online marketing. Info product businesses, so coaches, consultants, course creators, they know about this stuff. And then there's also a list of niches that aren't sophisticated, but our team has found our students have struggled. I'm actually going to go ahead and leave a list of niches down below that our coaches, our full-time coaches here inside of Agency Accelerator have found our students have a difficult time delivering services for, or just have a difficult time signing on. So I'll go ahead and leave a full plug and play down below. Now, this is a little bit of a side tangent, but this is really why you want to avoid dumb twists on the agency model. So there's stuff out there like IPGA, Info Product Growth Agency, Growth Operator, Growth Consultants. And these are the dumbest things that you could ever do as a beginner. And when I say as a beginner, I mean, don't even consider touching these things before you've been an agency owner for at least 1 to 2 years minimum. Now, there's already some massive flaws to this business model in the sense of building up someone's education company. People do not want to do the work. That's basically if you were a full service agency and you're going to do everything for your client, but the client still needs to learn how to speak on camera, shoot the content, create the content material, still market, create content and stuff like that. And at the end of the day, I've learned over time that some clients have it on camera and some don't. And if they don't have it on camera, it's going to take so many years for them to develop that it's just simply not profitable working with them. And then when you do work with them, you're going to face some massive issues, which is basically risk management. And this is the biggest reason that I ended up closing my agency rather than selling it. I thought for many, many, many years that it was far smarter to have less clients that paid you more money. And that made sense to a point. The issue with that is, let's say you have 5 high-paying clients. One leaves, now 20% of your revenue gone just like that. And that is the issue you're going to face with some of these other models, which is, listen, if you only have 1 or 2 or 3 clients, one of them leaves, all of your revenue is wiped out, or maybe 50%, or maybe even 30%, or maybe even 25%. But the point is, it is such a massive hit. You're putting far too much risk on one single client. So, and that's the thing that I did with my agency for so long. And it just means that it's not really, it can make sense, but it's very risky. And in the last 2 years of having my agency, that was actually something that I worked really hard on, was lowering our billables with clients. So actually billing clients less. But we found that obviously when you charge them less, they stay longer. And by the way, I'm not talking about poverty pricing. I wasn't charging them $500 a month, but rather than our billables being $15,000 a month, between $10,000 and $15,000 a month, that was my target for a long time for every single client. Between base and performance, my target would actually be between $5,000 to $10,000 per client, but we managed to double and sometimes even triple the average retention of a client by doing that. So yeah, that's just a little bit of a warning to you that when you see a lot of these models online, they're just the thing that works. They take the thing that works, they repackage it slightly, but they haven't been in this game. I've been in this game so long that I can tell you the pitfalls, what works, what doesn't work. And I can tell you right now that if something works, we are going to add it to Agency Accelerator. If I find something that's really, really working, I will add it to Agency Accelerator. But for right now, this whole growth consultant, growth operator, IPGA, all this shit, it does not work for beginners. It works. It is something that feel free to explore and consider when you've been 2 years into the agency game. But just understand that when you are going to potential clients, helping them grow their business, at a certain point, they won't need you anymore. They'll get rid of you. And that's why these big revenue share deals, they just don't work. Going back to my own example with this, every single time, without a doubt, we were capped at 25 to 30K. I knew if we charged a client, and we had clients, I think our biggest billable ever went to high 30s or low 40s that we charged a client in a single month. And that was because of the performance fee, by the way. I knew that without a doubt, the second it went over 20K, our billable for that month because of the performance fee, our client was about to have that conversation with us and we were about to get let go as an agency. It sucks because you have made your client so much money, but they don't see that. They just see how much they're paying you. So a bit of a side tangent there, but that's, I guess, another word to say that if I see something working, I will add it inside the program, and I will also let you guys know at what stage should you start to consider specific things. So inside the program, I am going to have a program if you want to scale to 7 figures, but as I said, I will make it very clear at what point should you start to consider this. So ladies and gentlemen, that is pretty much how to find a niche, what to do once you find it. And I know I told you for the next 48 hours, become obsessed with a niche, but this needs to be your life now. Apart from doing outreach, I would say that understanding your niche and being involved in your niche as if you were a business owner in that niche, as if you actually owned a chain of gyms, as if you were actually a dentist and you had a clinic, as if you were actually a business owner in the solar industry, as if you were actually, let's say, a coach or a course creator and you were creating short form content for them, as an example. Whatever you are doing, you want to situate yourself in that niche as if you were actually the owner of that kind of business. Because the more you understand the niche, the more you even understand the intricate lingo in every single niche, every single market. There's little inside jokes, there's meme pages, there's this sub-communication that when you understand, it will make it 100 times easier for you to not only sell, but service those clients. So with all that being said, I hope you guys enjoyed today's module, and I will see you in the next one.